We all know the story of the 300 Spartans at Thermopylae, a tale of heroic sacrifice against impossible odds. But what happened next? Did the Persian Empire just roll over Greece? Not a chance. This is the story of how 10,000 Spartans, alongside their Greek allies, came back to avenge their fallen king and deliver a decisive blow that would change the course of history. This is the story of the Battle of Plataea. The year is 480 BC. King Leonidas and his 300 are dead. The Persian king Xerxes, having finally broken through the pass at Thermopylae, marches south. The city of Athens, a beacon of Greek culture and democracy, is evacuated. Its citizens watch in horror from the nearby island of Salamis as Xerxes' forces burn their homes and temples to the ground. The Acropolis, the pride of Athens, is left a smoldering ruin. It seems like the end for Greece. The Persian war machine appears unstoppable, but the Greeks are far from defeated. While the Persian army ravaged the land, the combined Greek navy, led by the cunning Athenian general Themistocles, was preparing for a showdown. He lured the massive Persian fleet into the narrow straits of Salamis. In these tight quarters, the larger, more numerous Persian ships couldn't maneuver. The smaller, more agile Greek triremes rammed and sank ship after ship. The Battle of Salamis was a stunning, improbable naval victory for the Greeks. Xerxes, watching from a throne set up on the shore, was shocked. His fleet, his key to supplying his massive army, was crippled. Fearing he might be trapped in Greece if the Greeks sailed to the Hellespont and destroyed his bridge of boats, he made a critical decision. He would return to Persia with a large portion of his army, leaving behind his top general Mardonius, with a force of around 300,000 elite troops to finish the job. Mardonius was confident. He thought he had more than enough men to crush the remaining Greek resistance. He was wrong. Mardonius tried diplomacy first. He sent an envoy to Athens, offering to rebuild their city and make them powerful allies if they would just switch sides. The Athenians, despite their city being in ruins, gave a legendary reply. They said, "So long as the sun runs its course, we will never make a pact with Xerxes." Their loyalty to the Greek cause was unbreakable. With diplomacy failing, Mardonius reoccupied and further destroyed Athens. This forced the hand of the Peloponnesian states, especially Sparta. The Athenians had sent a desperate plea. If Sparta didn't march north to help them, they would be forced to make a deal with the Persians out of sheer necessity. The Spartans, who had been hesitant to march so far from home, finally understood the gravity of the situation. This wasn't just about saving Athens. It was about saving all of Greece. And so, they assembled their army. This wasn't a small sacrificial force like the 300. This was the full might of Sparta, a force of 5,000 Spartiates, the elite. Full citizen soldiers were sent out. Each Spartiate was accompanied by 7 helots, state-owned serfs who acted as light infantry and support. That's 35,000 men from Sparta alone. A massive mobilization. This army was led by Pausanias, the regent for Leonidas's young son. Pausanias was Leonidas's nephew, and the desire for vengeance burned in his heart. As the Spartan army marched north, they were joined by contingents from dozens of other Greek city-states. Tegeans, Corinthians, Megarians, and of course, the Athenians, who fielded 8,000 of their own heavy infantry, or hoplites. In total, the Greek army numbered around 110,000 men. The largest Greek army ever assembled. They were still heavily outnumbered by Mardonius's force. But this time they were fighting on their own terms. The two massive armies finally met near the small town of Plataea in the summer of 479 BC. The battlefield was a wide, rolling plain, perfect for the Persian cavalry. For 11 days, the two sides faced off in a tense stalemate. There were skirmishes, cavalry raids, and attempts to cut off supply lines. Mardonius used his cavalry to harass the Greeks, even managing to poison their main water source, the Gargathian spring. Pausanias, realizing his position was becoming untenable without water, decided on a risky nighttime maneuver. He ordered his army to pull back to a new position closer to Plataea, where they would have better access to water and more broken terrain that would negate the Persian cavalry advantage. This tactical withdrawal was chaotic. The different Greek contingents moved at different speeds, and the army became fragmented. When dawn broke, Mardonius looked across the field and saw what he believed was a full-blown Greek retreat. He saw the Spartans, who were covering the withdrawal, seemingly isolated. Believing victory was at hand, he ordered a full-scale charge. Victory is ours, he probably thought. The cowardly Greeks are running. This was the moment Pausanias had been waiting for. The Persian infantry, a mix of lightly armored spearmen and archers, charged forward in a disorganized wave. They slammed into the Athenian and Megarian forces on one flank, and the Spartans and Tegeans on the other. The Persians unleashed a storm of arrows, so many that they were said to blot out the sun, just like at Thermopylae. But this time, the Greeks weren't trapped in a narrow pass. This time, they had full-sized shields and stood their ground. After the arrow barrage, the Persian infantry crashed into the Greek shield wall. But their wicker shields and short spears were no match for the bronze shields, long spears, and heavy armor of the Greek hoplites. Still, the Persians fought with incredible bravery, grabbing at the Greek spears and trying to break them. The turning point came when Mardonius himself, riding a magnificent white charger and surrounded by his 1,000-strong elite bodyguard, rode into the thick of the fighting to inspire his men. He was a formidable warrior, but he also made himself a target. Pausanias spotted him. The Spartans pushed forward, directly towards the Persian general. A Spartan soldier named Aramnestus saw his chance. He picked up a rock and hurled it with all his might, striking Mardonius in the head and killing him instantly. The death of their charismatic leader shattered the morale of the Persian forces. Panic spread through their ranks. What started as a confident charge turned into a desperate, chaotic retreat. The Greeks surged forward, the Spartans leading the charge, avenging Leonidas with every step. They chased the fleeing Persians back to their fortified camp. The battle wasn't over yet. The Persians barricaded themselves inside their wooden palisade. The Spartans, who were not skilled in siege warfare, struggled to break in. It was the Athenians, arriving after defeating the Thebans who had allied with Persia, who finally managed to breach the walls. What followed was a slaughter. The enraged Greeks poured into the camp, cutting down the trapped and demoralized Persians. Of the massive Persian army, it is said that only 40,000 managed to escape. The rest were killed. The Greek victory was total, absolute, and brutal. The threat of Persian invasion was ended, once and for all. The Battle of Plataea was the true conclusion to the story that began at Thermopylae. It was not just a story of 300, but of tens of thousands of Greeks from across the land standing together. It was the story of how 10,000 Spartans, leading a united Greek army, avenged their fallen king and secured the future of Western civilization. The sacrifice of Leonidas was not in vain. It was the spark that ignited a fire of resistance, culminating in a victory that echoed through the ages. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this journey back in time, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell for more stories from history. See you next time.